the Lord.
Good. So, I had to get my cup of tea as well. I saw you with your mug. So,
So that's
yeah,
why you were on camera.
I had to look distinguished and look proper. So,
Well,
you know,
I know. I know tea is your thing anyway. Well, no, coffee
it,
is.
no. It would be tea more than coffee. In fact, if I'm going to drink tea, I would say ginger tea, hands down. That and mint tea is probably my favorite.
Ginger and mint tea. So I'm currently drinking lemon ginger tea
Now that doesn't count.
from.
That's not the real stuff. It's not the real stuff.
Wait. Are you talking about the powder stuff, or like
What for?
real ginger tea?
Any
Huh?
of the above, but it can't be the weak powder. It's got to be like official. So it's got to be found on some island someplace, and somebody must have picked it up from the ground. It can't be just you know.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me and encourage the people. So just for those who are watching really quick, my name is Isaiah Light. I am co-owner of Be the Light 516, where we purpose to do clothing intentional events and intentional design, all for the glory of God. And today we have my pastor, Pastor Heston Williams, pastor of Purpose Life Church in Brooklyn, New York. And so we're just going to be, sorry, go ahead. So we're
No,
just
I just said hey fam. That's all. So go ahead.
oh,
I'm messing up your intro. You want to redo it
I,
again because it was good.
no, no, it's all right. So we're just going to be talking and encouraging you folks. So we hope that you enjoy and that you take away some good stuff today. So Pastor, I'm gonna hand it over to you. How about you? You can do your own little intro, I guess.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
Over to you.
Wow. Well, first of all, I'm so grateful just to be able to be on with you, and just for anyone that is tuning in. I count it a privilege just to be able to say anything. But a little bit about myself. I'm married for quite a bit. It's going to be almost 20 years in a couple of years, and I fell in love once. I have one of those great stories where I've never experienced heartbreak. So the first time I fell in love, it was forever. Have three children of my own. Usually count my niece. So normally you would always see pictures with us four. We've been pastoring, my wife and I've been pastoring Purpose Life for about 6 years. Took over from my parents who did such a phenomenal job laying the foundation. And, kind of born in England, grew up in Brooklyn, now live in Long Island. So I have this hodgepodge of perspective from places I've lived and from people I've met.
Got it.
So
You said you grew up in Brooklyn? Born and raised in Brooklyn?
born in England. You got to get
Born
it
in
right, brother. So,
Born in England.
born in England, lived there for the first 8 years of my life. And then about
Yeah.
8 years old, that's when we moved to Brooklyn. My parents, honestly, it's one of those moments where they just felt God told them to move, like drop everything. And they were living called the British dream. So that means they had the house and the car, and the dog, or the stray dog. It wasn't our own dog, but we had the stray dog. And so they had everything, and God told them to, hey, drop everything and move. And so at 8 years old, I really didn't have a choice. So it's not like they gave us a chance to vote, because I would have voted it down. But
Right.
I had no vote at 8 years old. So we just kind of rolled with it, and
Yeah.
grew up in Brooklyn for the majority of my life.
Oh, nice. So that's an interesting, well, not interesting, great story. Life experiences is so from a unique vantage point. I can kind of relate.
Okay,
So,
go ahead.
so
Yes, great.
I was born, but I was that's why I said kind of. I was born
Kind of.
in Boston,
Okay.
But when I was 4, my parents heard the call of God and decided to, my dad picked up the entire family and moved to Guyana, South America.
What?
Yeah, well, it's kind of British. It's a British colony, so
Okay.
kind
I'll
of.
let you slide. It's okay.
Well,
We'll have that in common.
again, again, I was 4. I had no say. So, um, was I was there for about 16 years, and then I moved back to the U.S. in 2004.
Okay.
And I've been in the U.S. ever since, and then went to Massachusetts, then Connecticut, and now I'm in New York. So
Okay.
yeah,
So you did a little bit of that bounce around as well.
a little bit.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I can definitely relate the unique vantage point of
Okay.
life in the world and seeing things like that. But so we're gonna move forward. So you spoke about yourself. You spoke briefly about the ministry.
Yeah.
I guess I'll start with this one in terms of ministry. You guys were passing for a number of years. But before becoming senior pastor of Purpose Life, where
Yeah.
did you serve?
I was junior pastor. I mean,
Okay,
before you become senior, you got to be
I
junior.
got it. Okay, I'll take that. I'll
Um,
take that.
well, in terms of ministry now, I was operating as the associate pastor.
Okay.
I've been youth pastor, pretty much every position in the church. I've had the opportunity to serve. So whether that was driving the church van, teaching Sunday school, probably when I was 13 years old, I started teaching Sunday school.
Yeah.
Everything. I think at one point I was a women's ministry leader. At some point, I don't know how that
How did I?
happened.
Yeah. Okay. I have questions,
Every,
but okay.
every area in ministry. All right, now I'm joking about that,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it almost felt like that. But besides actually being in ministry, probably for at least 2 decades, I've been in the IT, technology, database management side. So I've had a really rich, I would say, adventure in the marketplace, and have had the opportunity to work for a number of different, whether small, large, national, international, and similar to ministry, where I've done every role, probably work-wise, I've done every job. So started working at maybe 13 years old, 14 years old. My parents were like, you need to get a job. No,
Yeah.
I'm like 11 years old. You need to know.
Yeah.
And I joke with that, but they certainly instilled a value of being able to contribute to the household. So as soon as I could, I wanted to add versus take away. So I wanted to add a dimension to the household, and not always be one that sort of took away. And that was just my early mindset. I'm not saying it's right, but certainly that's kind of what I did early on as a kid. So
It's great. I was not the type to work early.
are
No,
you working now? Quickly?
I am working now. No. Working early in the household. Yeah, no, I was not the type to, go get a job at 11. Nope. I would still be in the house. If there was yard work to be done, I was
Yeah.
not doing
It was like the guy running like that.
Yeah, and my brothers would be chasing me down, and my father. So
Okay.
yeah, no.
Okay.
So just transitioning to a bit of a more serious note. We all know that the pandemic is happening, coronavirus.
Yeah.
I'll start with this question: how has it impacted you personally?
So it's impacted me probably at different stages. So let's think about stage number one. Stage number one is maybe a month ago when we're hearing about this, and it's kind of like, okay, I guess we need to be cautious of this. And I think at the earlier stages, you can be a little bit more judgmental. I think when things are further from you, there is sometimes a sense of judgment that is much easier for you to have, where you start saying things or thinking things. Well, it's those people, or it's that nation, or it's that group. And so I think over these last few weeks, personally, I've seen the impact where it's been knocking at the door. I'm not talking about the ministry level because I've seen that impact there, but I'm just on personally, as a father, as a husband, in this case, as a nephew, to hear my aunt get diagnosed, to see my news feed be populated with, oh man, he's gone, or oh man, she's gone.
Wow.
And these are individuals that I know, that I've grown up with, that we've crossed paths with. And I think it has had, I would say, a profound effect, not because of passing as much, because I think I can deal much, maybe because I'm a pastor and I've had to, I guess, walk families through so many funerals. I'm kind of used to the transition of life. And I celebrate it when a person's spiritually in the right place. I'm actually, I can reason with that and I'm okay. I think the hard part is just where families are not able to mourn, to celebrate, to hug, to console. I think that's the hardest thing that I'm watching individuals that I'm close to, that they're experiencing even now.
Wow. 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 That is a lot. That is a lot to deal with. But I mean, as a pastor, did it get any easier, I guess? You said you walked families through many funerals, right? Even in this time, like, I guess, does it get any easier? I guess that's the question that I have. It's like, how pastors do this?
Well, I don't know if it gets any easier. And easy is not probably what I'm looking for. I want to, whatever opportunity that I have, and whomever it is with, I just want to do the best that I can. And so it doesn't mean that, this is for me or for any one of you. You may not always say the right thing, but I think people will always know your heart, even when your mouth doesn't say what's right. So I'm not looking for easier. I'm absolutely looking for an end of this. There needs to be some closure. Like, I don't even need to know well, this is why God did this, or this is why God allowed this. I don't even need to know that. I just need some closure so that people can have closure.
Yeah. Wow.
That's my prayer.
Okay. That does make sense. And that is actually a good posture to have. You did mention about, you've seen it impact the church as well. What is the church doing, Purpose Life, not the church as a whole, but Purpose Life? Okay. What is Purpose Life doing in response to this? If you can speak to that.
Okay. Well, I think that the church's biggest responsibility is to be unwavering and unbudging when it comes to sharing hope. I think when there's crisis and there's no hope, that's when there's true disaster. That's when there's true chaos. And so if you think about it, you can be in the middle of darkness, but if one person lights a single match, it actually makes it feel so much better. So as a church community, I think the one thing that we are committed to doing and committed to shining is light. And that light is in the form of hope. That light is in the form of love. One of the things we got to do, this was a few weeks ago, before it got really bad in New York, we put this out there. Hey, we're forming a community crisis response team. In fact, that probably wasn't the initial name of it, but you know how sometimes you have an idea and then over time it changes. And so eventually it came out to this community crisis response team. We're able, within probably about 4 days, assemble a group of at least a dozen people, start to gather resources, put up a website, start an 800 number, so that we can now be available for people that are in crisis. We understood and still understand that what people now need is hope. They need sometimes someone to talk to, someone to cry with, someone to vent with. They may need prayer. And so our church has been able to put this together. And once again, it's the generosity of the people connected to our church that allows us to do things like this. And, we're able to offer that even now to anybody. And we're especially servicing the Brooklyn area. But we have been visiting homes, getting medication for the elderly, picking up groceries for some in need, because we're in a crisis and we want to do this together.
Wow.
So
That's amazing. Yeah. I didn't know that was all of those things, even though I go to the church. But it's great to just hear it explained out what is happening with the church that I'm affiliated with. And even those who are tuned in and hearing, if you know someone that in the Brooklyn area that needs resources, or someone to pick up groceries or prescription, just where do I refer them to? The Purpose Life Church .com?
Yeah, the best place is to go to purposelifechurch.com/community. And from there, there'll be information about this current pandemic. There'll be information about how you get support, call information, whatever it is that you need. That will be the landing place. And I'm going to say it again, just in case you missed it, but it's purposelifechurch.com/community.
All right. My brother is tweeting. He's from Rhode Island. They're not tweeting.
Okay.
He's groceries.
You said your brother needs groceries?
Yeah, he's in Rhode Island. They can't sit. They can't have more than 5 people in the room right now. So they're kind of going through it up there.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Thank you for those who are sharing the link in the comment sections. Okay, so moving along. So I have this question. It says, there are many different voices in the community saying different things. There's a camp that is not abiding by the CDC guidelines and still meeting, right? Saying God will keep them. And then there are social distancing and saying, let's use wisdom. What are your thoughts on the people that are gathering together during this time despite what officials are saying?
Okay. Well, I'm going to start by first answering the question by saying, I really like to look at the heart of people and not just their decisions. And my firm belief is that most people, if not all of humanity, they try their very best to make the decisions that they think is best. At the end of the day, sometimes we're right, sometimes we're not so right. But I think that we all have to go through the journey of, let's examine the heart of the matter. I think the best way I can answer this is kind of walking through our journey. Now, we are a church that has nothing but faith. In fact, our whole history as a church is purely about faith. We've seen the impossible done and still believe for the impossible. And it's funny because it's March 30th, and I'm still believing that March is the month of miracles. And God has been teaching me about perspective, because sometimes miracles happen in a way that you didn't expect, but because you didn't see it the way how you wanted, you felt like it didn't really happen. But let me get back to kind of the question. I think that many of us, we operate to the level of our capacity. So sometimes our decisions are based upon our experience. It's our limitations, about the voices that are in our camp. So I won't choose a side, but I would say that wisdom in this case sort of trumps, no pun intended, wisdom trumps pure faith alone. I believe the combination of faith and wisdom is what God desires for us, because we're not looking like, I don't want to just have people in the building and feel like that's the example of the church. That was never the New Testament scripture. They never, in fact, they gathered in homes. And so I don't want our tradition of the church to be the overriding thing and the overriding idea of this is how we still need to navigate. I'd rather go back to scripture and say, well, this is how the church in its truest sense began. That is how it should continue, whether we can gather as 5, gather as 50, gather as 500, we still get to be the church.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. what has been your biggest obstacle since the pandemic started? I guess since the quarantining has started, I guess. And how are
That's
you
easy.
overcoming it? Huh?
Having your kids at home all the time.
Okay.
Open the fridge all the time.
Oh man, eating up all
And
the food.
eating all the food. And I guess how I've overcome it is I haven't overcome yet. That's the thing.
Okay.
Uh,
Pastor, you should teach
and
them how to fast.
teach them how to fast. I'm thinking about it. They need to have the discipline of fasting. I think if I had to answer it though, and think about it, probably the biggest obstacle has been not allowing myself to get too wrapped up in trying to manage the crisis,
Okay.
that I don't engage with the people. And that could be my own family. So that's probably the biggest obstacle because I'm naturally, if I see a problem, I'm going to look for a way to solve it. I'm going to look for a solution. Oh, we need to do this. We need to do that. So that's my natural wiring, is to look to respond, to look to get ahead of the curve, to look to be innovative. Can I tell you? It's a struggle having to be one that people look at, to be innovative, to be ahead of the curve. And so you are sometimes chasing a shadow that you never created yourself. So I think the biggest obstacle really has been getting out of my own head, not trying to feel like I have to solve everything. But the way that I've overcome it is, doing a jigsaw puzzle with the kids. So yesterday, after church on the couch, which was different, by the way.
Sorry, yeah.
We did some things, and so I was already in okay, we need to plan for next week. And then there was just a voice in my head that says, hey, break out the puzzle and just do the puzzle. And so, it's a 500-piece puzzle. We completed it. I wish we could say we did it in 5 minutes, but it did take a little bit longer than 5 minutes. But we completed it. We had the music playing in the background. It was just a really great moment of just connecting with the people that God's placed in your life.
So just being in the moment is how.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Not stressing about like what's tomorrow and what am I gonna do. I feel like a lot of people, what they do is, I guess in this time there's a lot of pressure on people to be like, oh, I'm home, I'm not productive. And then so what they do, they start planning for like, oh, when this is over, I'm gonna be doing this, that, and the third. And what I find is like they miss out on what's happening in the immediacy, right now. And today, as I'm getting ready for this live, I was thinking about that, and the scripture that came to me was I believe it's in Matthew, when Jesus is like, well, don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow has its own worries.
That's right.
That's in Matthew 6. Thanks, honey. So like just thinking about that, just being present today, like how can I, so that I can get to tomorrow and not get to tomorrow and stress about the next day. So that's something that I've like taken to heart. It's just like, be present today, Isaiah. Like do what you can today. Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow's gonna worry about itself. So that's my encouragement to those listening as well. Don't try and plan out to like when this is over. We don't know when this is over. Be present today.
Yeah.
All right. You mentioned weeks ago as the quarantine was quarantining, just keeping in the same vein. You mentioned, I think it was from the pulpit, you were like, writers write, creators create, dancers dance, right? What do you encourage people, just off of the last question, like what do you encourage people to do during this time?
Okay.
And I left it broad so you can answer however you
definitely catch up on some rest. Um, Definitely get rid of some of the clutter. Go examine your home. And I think that there's almost a parallel to the condition of your home is going to also paint to the condition of your life. And this is a good time to evaluate some things that even you have in your home. Is it still valuable for my future? Is it still valuable for my now? And I think that we can have a habit of holding on to things that represent trophies of the past, but it doesn't do anything except keep you looking in the rearview mirror of yesterday and talking about, hey, what you was and what you did. So I think this is a good season to clear the clutter. I also think that this is a great time to call people that you love and care about. To connect, and if maybe you're mad at someone, this is the perfect time to forgive them. Let's be real. People are losing their lives, and it's not like they don't lose their lives on a normal, but on the level that we're seeing it, in the way that it is, it should be a stark reminder that our life is not promised for tomorrow. And so certainly making sure that you're intentional about following up with people, checking on them. I think that's good. And maybe just the last thing would be definitely use this time to create. So not to wallow, not to overly plan. So I'm going to kind of say what you said, is that when you plan for the next, you make no use of your now. So all you have is what I call, you have a sketch, but you have no structure. You have a great what the architects made that your architect that give a great blueprint. And you're like, hey, look at my blueprint, look at my plan. And then and you look at your house and you're like, but nothing's changed. You have a blueprint for tomorrow, but you have nothing for now. So I think that there are songs that are to be written. There are poems that are to be read and there are books that will be penned in this season because we have time and intentionality. And I think that if we would put our ear to the ground and say, well, God, what are you saying to me? Or what are you awakening inside of me? There would be such creativity that would be produced out of this season more than any other season that we've seen in our lifetime.
I completely agree with that. Not only because you're my but I think that a lot will be produced during this season.
Absolutely.
But what I hope to see, a lot will be produced, but will all of it be published? You know what I mean? So people will write, people will, read the poem or write the play. I guess after this, the next mode of those who have created is really the encouragement of have to bring it to the forefront.
Okay.
Because we can write and it'll be in our books, kind of like, look at my blueprint, but what are we doing with it? Right? So,
well,
I guess
I'm gonna almost interject, and I completely agree. Yet I also know the reality: not everything you write is supposed to be published. In other words, so think about your heart and your soul as a cave. And there are sounds that if produced in a cave, they never leave the cave, right? They're for the pure purpose to resonate in the arena of what's inside. And so I think that as we write and sing and do some of those things, what the melody, it will hit our past, it will hit our heart, it will hit our mind. So I think we have to, and the reason why I say this is because we sometimes think that success is about how many people read this, or how many people like this. And so if we don't get the metrics, if we don't sell the books, if we never publish like how we intended, then we feel like we weren't successful because we didn't get what we thought was supposed to be. But I believe that success is actually just finishing, or success is just writing. And if we can learn how to celebrate a step of success, it is a huge encouragement that allows us to say, you know what, let me go to that next level as well. So I do believe that many of us, many of you, should be going that next step, but I also want to provide some caution that that may not be the end goal of what the Holy Spirit is doing in your life during this time.
That's great advice. That is great advice. Not every word is for the public.
It's not.
Okay. So we're getting ready to wrap up, but
Okay.
the question, this next question is I guess, how can people get involved? We're talking about the church. How can people get involved with PLC?
Well, I think join in with whatever we're doing. It could be by sharing some of our outreach opportunities. So, like the community crisis response team. I think it would be good if we have people who share the content, who share the heart of it. Certainly, it would be even better if people take whatever wisdom that they're gleaning and they reproduce it. Our goal is to not just be a single mega church and that's it. So even when this comes, when the coronavirus subsides and when we all back, I think the greatest thing that we want people to be able to do is to be an extension of the vision, of purpose that we want people to have. I think that would do my heart proud, that no matter where you are in the world, you too can say, I'm living life on purpose. There are some tangible ways as well. There are people that you can volunteer to serve as part. Now, we don't have our on-site team, but if you're a prayer warrior, if you like to encourage people, then maybe you can serve as our kind of crisis support team. If you want to be able to help and maybe drop some things off for whether the elderly, otherwise, that those are some other ways that you can help. You can help by giving and resourcing in that sort of way as God prospers you. So I think right now, in addition to joining us in prayer, we're in actually a week of prayer. Those are just some really great ways that you can be involved with Purpose Life Church.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing that. And for anything else, no topic that you would like to share to the people?
I don't know, man. Maybe there's questions that people are posing in the chat. And so if you had a question there, I don't mind answering it. But, while you are typing away, if you so desire, I just really want you to be encouraged during this time. This is some things are hitting real, as they would say. Things are happening that it's almost like you expected it. If you watch some of the movies, you're like, oh yeah, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But now it's happening. You're like, this is crazy. I'm thankful to still have my mind, my head, my peace.
Yeah.
I'm thankful to still have folks that love me. And so I think maybe that's my word for us all, is in all of this, let's still learn how to give thanks. Let's not be so fixated on everything that's happening in the news, or everything that we're seeing. In fact, sometimes we need to get off social media. And it's weird that I'm saying this because right now we are on social media.
Right.
Take time to express gratitude, even for the things that you have and for the life that you've been given. So,
okay, definitely. Thank you for sharing that. We got one question.
Okay.
And this is from Angel from Rhode Island.
Okay.
And her question is, as a man of faith, father and husband, where'd it go? Hold on. Father and husband, what are 3 fun things you get to do with your family now? Now that you're home with them.
Okay. Well, I get to swat the balls that my son, in basketball, I get like, get that out of here. I love it. I love it. I don't care that he's 10. Get out of here.
Oh,
But in all seriousness, that is just being able to do that. You know, I kind of mentioned the whole jigsaw puzzle. And I think we just have these family talks. We talk about, just the other day, we're sitting at the table. We are, I think we just ate dinner. This was before my monopoly smashing of my family, by the way. I think I lost once in my lifetime. But like, I'm a monopoly king. I kind of have my own way of doing that. So I'm a great negotiator, but we were having this conversation. And so I'm asking my daughters, you know, they're 15, 16, my niece is at the table too. I said, okay, so girls, what age do you think you're gonna get married? All right. And so it's great to be able to ask those questions and have the time for conversation. Because I believe sometimes we ask questions, but we never leave the space for conversation. So we never really get answers. We just get tidbits, but conversation is the most essential thing. And I find it fun to ask these weird questions of them. And yes, and they answer. So, yeah, right now, Ken said, he doesn't want to get married.
What?
Caleb doesn't want to get married right now. Which is fine. He's a kid, not thinking about that stuff right now.
That's good.
But those are the fun things that I really get to do a little bit more so because I'm not out the house as much.
That's good. That's awesome. It's a very
great question.
You ask very intentional and weird questions. I was speaking to my brother yesterday, and he was saying, well, he was talking about your conversation that you guys had when he was here, when he was visiting the church.
Okay. Yeah.
The questions you asked him about his purpose blew his mind. And he's actually going to reach out to you at some point to ask to talk to you.
Okay.
I can attest that Pastor asked very weird questions. And then one other question, are there some creative endeavors you're working on during this time?
I guess maybe trying to cut my own hair. Maybe that's
I think, yeah.
You know, I'll let you know how that works out.
I
definitely go live with it. I definitely have been more intentional about writing. So I'm in one of these odd predicaments. I have like five titles and 5 books in my head at the same time. And so, I mean, honestly, what I've done, you know, and don't search the internet for it, by the way, but I started each one as a separate Google Doc. Okay. And as I feel led, I just go in, blah, 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 and sort of type away. So those are just, I mean, that's one thing that I just felt this time is a good time to sort of catch up on some of those things. And this one isn't as creative, but I think it's meaningful. Is, you know, I'm on a path to read the Bible again in a year. And so I think more than anything else, I think that the Word of God I see it as a manual. It's a manual for life. And there's nothing else that we should refer to for life situations than the Word of God. So maybe not creative, but I got to tell you that it is important.
All right, well, thank you. Pastor.
Great question.
Really, this is the last question. Top three books that you've read in your life. Not including any Bible.
Okay. Well, let me. So, one is this book called Holy Sex. All right. That's by Richard Weir, and last name Weir. And I know I had to check who's online to make sure that I'm not like, but it's reclaiming the identity and the intentionality of sex and intimacy. So in fact, I may need to pick that up again especially since we are kind of closed in or locked in. I may need to pick that up again.
Yeah.
And just we're in the presence of the Lord. So that is one.
Okay.
I guess another one is it's not a super spiritual book, but Who Moved My Cheese. I don't know if you've
Say it again.
Who Moved My Cheese. And for whatever reason, I still remember that it's a short read. It's definitely one of those books that you read for those that are kind of looking business development or just looking to be better organizers or just kind of more empowered in that sense. That's a great book there. A lot of TD Jakes stuff. I would say hands down, though, my favorite was Maximize the Moment.
Okay.
And there was one part of the book that really stuck with me, and he talks about that, between, if you look on any tombstone, there is one part of the tombstone which is always the same. So if you do the comparison, the beginning and the end may be different for a variety of people. In fact, the distance between the two could be 50 years, could be 10 years, could be 5 years, could be 100 years. Yet the one thing that is consistent is that there's a dash. And he goes on to say is that whatever dash God gives you, you need to maximize it. So that probably is one of my favorite books, Maximize the Moment.
Maximize the Moment. All right.
Which is why every moment I get, and I did that with your brother, I'm not going to waste time. I don't know about tomorrow. So I'm going to ask the questions that I think are going to help a purpose navigate their journey, because that may be the only moment that I get.
Wow. Powerful. And then there's one more.
Okay.
No. One more book. You said there was Holy Sex. There was three. You said Holy Sex, Who Moved My Cheese? Oh, and Maximize My... Oh, sorry. I'm thinking that Who Moved My Cheese was... Sorry about that, folks. But anyway, yeah, thank you so much for sharing, taking this time to share your thoughts, your wisdom, your encouragement with all of us here. I hope we get to do this again at some point. Maybe, hopefully, this is all over. We can probably do a live, the actual in-person thing, like a TED Talk or something. Who knows?
TED Talk, no problem.
But so the people want me to ask you, what goes in the bowl first, the milk or the cereal?
Oh, absolutely the milk.
Oh, he's the milk, people. He has spoken. All right.
The milk first. All right.
Goes in the bowl first.
The milk first.
There's rationale.
Absolutely, there's a rationale. You pour the milk first, and so there was a period of time, and I'll let you know where. One, we didn't have the fancy Frosted Flakes, so we had to kind of make our own Frosted Flakes. And so the way how you do that, you pour the milk in, you put a little bit of sugar, and you spin it around.
Yeah.
So, that's Frosted Flakes.
Okay.
But also, I think that I love cereal that's crunchy and a little bit moist.
Okay.
And if you pour the cereal in first, by the time you get to the bottom, it's all soggy and just so the method is pour the milk, pour a little bit of the cereal, eat. Pour more cereal, eat.
Okay.
It's crunchy all the way through.
All the way through. Okay.
You gotta have crunchy.
I've always put the cereal in first. I may have to try your way, and I'll let you know the comparison.
Absolutely. If you haven't tried it, you can't knock it.
You're right. So I can't say what's right and what's wrong because I haven't tried the alternative.
There you go.
All right, Pastor. Thank you so much for your time. I've been so encouraged. I've been so challenged to maximize the moment and to just you just make all of us better. I don't know what else to say. But thank you so much, and yeah, have a great night.
Thank you. Thank you for the time. Bless, love you all, and I hope to be able to get to do this again.
Yes, me as well.
Yeah.
God bless.